Hi, I'm Kim. I'd like to share with you that I ask most of my clients and sometimes my supervisees, what is the birth story that began your journey? And I'll soon find out whether the 9 months in the womb was bliss or perhaps already stressful. What was going on in the mother's life? And of course, we know that the little ovum that became the person that I'm speaking to, that little ovum was actually already in their own mother's growing embryo, so in the belly of the grandmother. So we've lived in the belly of our grandmother and in the belly of our mother, and now we're out in the world. But that entry point into the world often has a clue to some of the distress that the client may be feeling where they're at the moment. So, for example, someone told me recently that they weren't coping, a lot of things were happening and they were out of their control, and they were really becoming unravelled by the events. And I just straight away asked them, what was your birth like? Was it a cesarean? She said, yes, it was a cesarean. How did you know? And I said, well, people generally have a cesarean from 20 or 30 years ago when there's a problem, not like nowadays where it's often a choice. So basically what happens is 20, 30 years ago when people had a cesarean, the fetal distress was being monitored, and when it got high, the baby would be taken out safely, quickly from the womb. So she then went on to tell me that her mother was actually in labour for 3 days, and then eventually a doctor who wasn't really assigned to the hospital somehow was there and said, look, this baby needs to come out now. And as this person was talking, it became obvious that was part of their story in some way. Maybe you could reflect on your own birth journey, your birth story. I've got another example where someone really has managed to get through quite a difficult childhood. And then they told me that actually when the firstborn of the family, son, was born, the father, who was the challenging person in the family, I'll say, was obviously there in the hospital waiting for, to see if it was going to be a boy or a girl. And of course, there was lots of celebrations and cigars or whatever for that firstborn. And then the second baby, which was this client, was going to be born, and the mother was in labour. And the father had already got his son. And so he went off to a football match, as it turns out, after he dropped her off at the hospital. The baby was born quite quickly afterwards, very quickly. And the client reflected that they were quite happy now reflecting on this story, because they realised that their very first few hours wasn't in the presence of this very challenging father. I just thought I'd share these things with you, so maybe you can explore them on your own with your clients, or reflecting and journaling on your own life story about the birth, and get those stories from the older members, the elders of your family, before they pass over, and take away those little, often important stories that we need to hear before they die. So enjoy, and I hope this has been helpful.